Welcome to another episode of the Pre-Zero Sports Talk podcast. The following is a conversation with Mary Boecker, founder of Queen City Links Ladies, a thriving golf community dedicated to empowering women in the sport, from struggling to navigate the golf handicap system. Seriously, why does it have to be so complicated, the handicap system? To leading over 200 women into the game. Mary's journey is one of resilience, inclusion, and passion for breaking down barriers in a traditionally male-dominant sport. Yes, I'm your host, Sid Bansala. Today, we'll explore the challenges women face in golf, the importance of community, and why representation truly matters. Let's dive in. Mary, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. That was such a lovely introduction. I'm flattered, and I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you.
You're welcome. What was your first experience with golf like, and why did it initially frustrated you?
Well, my first experience playing golf, I didn't grow up playing golf. No one in my family grew up playing golf. And so my first experience was right out of college when I was a young professional, and I went to play 9 holes with a group of my friends to be social and be involved. We did a number of different activities. This was just one of them. And I remember being really frustrated on the course. The 9 holes, which must have taken 2.5 hours, felt like an eternity to me. I had trouble getting the ball off the ground, and I had never swung a golf club before. I had previously played field hockey when I was younger, so I thought, oh, I can do this. But yeah, it was very frustrating. I remember being very hot and very hungry by the end of it. And I said, that's it. Golf isn't for me. And my guy friends went on to play it. I knew a lot of men who played, but I just thought, that's it. I don't, that's not for me.
Mm-hmm.
That was my first experience.
Cool. After the pandemic, based on our discussion earlier, what reignited your interest in golf?
Yeah, I have always been active and athletic. Prior to the pandemic, I loved going to yoga classes, spinning. I did high intensity, strength training and HIIT training, and I loved that classroom exercise environment. So after the pandemic, none of that existed anymore, or very little of it. And so I was looking for an activity that I could still be active and be outside and get some activity. And golf was becoming very popular. It was in the news. And so I just thought, now's the time. I'm going to try it again. And it was wonderful because I did experience that, being outside, but also being with others. And at the time, right, everyone was social distancing. So you could still be active in a safe way. And that, the first couple times I went out, then I thought, I like this. I think I'm going to invest more time and get lessons and really dive into it. And that's kind of how it all started.
And how did your struggles with the handicap system led you to create Queen City Links Ladies?
Thanks. That's a great question. I started playing golf in 2020, and then 2 years later, I was used to playing at my home course. I felt like very comfortable, a bit more confident. Obviously, I'm still learning. I'm still relatively new to the sport. And professionally, in my corporate job, there was an email that came into my inbox, and a senior leader was looking for a partner to play golf in one of the events at her golf club. And she said, the email said, ladies, and it was to a group of us. It said, ladies, I'm looking for a partner. You just have to be fun and know how to play golf. You could have a handicap of 50. You have to have a handicap. I don't care if it's 50 or more. And she just needed a partner. The event was in a couple of weeks from when I initially received the email. But I said, even though I had played golf for a couple of years, I said, what's a handicap? I didn't know what it was. And then I found out, oh, you need to keep track, you need to enter all your scores, and you have to sign up for the system. And I was a bit intimidated by that. I didn't feel like I could get that together before the date of the event. So I had to sit it out. And, it's a shame because it was a great opportunity for me to get some quality time with a woman that I respected and admired. And she was part of a country club. She played golf, and that would have been a great opportunity for our time together. But because I didn't have a handicap, I couldn't participate in that event, even though, I wasn't the best golfer, but I was comfortable and confident on the course at the time. So it would have been a great opportunity. And I still think about it to this day. And many women that I know that play golf don't keep an official USGA
Mm-hmm.
handicap. And so, I just think that's an example of early on the knowledge. If I had had that knowledge and had gotten that handicap right when I started playing, that would have been an opportunity that I wouldn't have had to miss out on. So I am big about the education of getting and maintaining a handicap, an official handicap.
I wish one day the governing body will change the name and make it more simple. Because trust me, your question, it's everyone who start or want to start golf is the same issue. What's a handicap? Why is it called handicap? Why it's like that? So, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And I think there's progress and improvements and things being done every year to improve. Now you can input, just your nine
Hmm.
hole scores, and you don't have to wait for the combined round. And so every year they're making improvements. And hopefully, everybody's efforts together will eventually make it more
Yeah,
intuitive.
yeah. Mary, what inspired you to transition from a casual golfer to a community leader?
Well, when I started playing, I took lessons. I went out on the golf course to the driving range by myself, and that got a little lonely after a while. I did have some friends and colleagues and neighbors who also played golf, but not very many, maybe
Hmm.
three. And they humored me. They came with me to clinics and lessons, but eventually they said, it's not for me. I don't have the passion that you have. And so, like, sorry, I'm not going to come with you anymore. Right. So I needed to look for more friends, more colleagues, more people women like me who were interested in playing golf and wanted to learn. And so one of my colleagues, she and I were taking a lesson together. We would do a joint lesson, which worked really well for us. And she said to me, you know, she had not played golf before I asked her to come with me to a few lessons and to the driving range. And so she said to me, "You really do have a passion about this, and you changed my mind about golf."
Hmm.
Because before that time, she had men in her life who would go golf. They smoked, they drank, they spent hours away from the home. She wasn't involved in that. And so she said, I was a golf widow. I actually hated golf. I had a very bad view of it because of my experience in the past. And she said, "You really changed my mind. You let me see how it is something it's more of an athletic
Hmm.
sport. It is athletic and anybody can do it, but it does take time and learn. But there's personal skill achievement, there's community, being outside in the outdoors. There's so many advantages to it." So she said, "You changed my mind, and I think you could change other people's minds. This is something valuable, and you could start, doing this in a bigger way. You could start a business." And that was the day that I decided that I think that my passion was worth going into a business, and started small, but still going a few years later.
Wow.
So.
Can you describe your first event and how it set the foundation for your mission?
Yeah, my first event was very simple. It was 10 people,
Hmm.
and we met at a driving range. And I had found a local golf pro who helped me set the event up. And it was actually a great experience because it allowed for everybody to get a little bit of individualized instructions, maybe a 15 minutes of instructions and tips, but it then also allowed social
Hmm.
connection. So I brought, cookies and brownies, and I think we had, I'm not sure if we had wine or we had seltzers, but um, the ladies could enjoy a drink and sort of a sip and swing event, if you will. They didn't have to be in the bays hitting the entire time. They could take a break, and they had individualized time with the golf professional so that they could get a little bit of instruction
Hmm.
and help them be not so frustrated the next time that they hold a golf club.
Yeah, nice, really.
And I got such great feedback about it that, I said, I think this is a good format that isn't something that I see offered a lot of places. So
Hmm.
decided to do more.
What's the biggest lesson you've learned in building this community?
The biggest lesson I've learned building the community is that there are a lot of common questions from beginner and all the way through intermediate golfer.
Hmm.
And this is maybe true for it's likely true for any beginner golfer, but I'm specifically serving the woman beginner golfer, the adult who, the woman golfer who's learning golf as an adult. And what I found, or the biggest lesson that I've learned in hosting so many events over the last couple of years, is that there are a lot of common questions and common themes, common threads that I hear asked about or discussed during events, after events, in between events.
Hmm.
And information is power. I think that's really the biggest lesson, and that inspired the blog that I started. So after 2 years of doing events, I decided I'm going to blog about playing in a weekly ladies golf league, because I would get questions. What's it like? Do you have to be good to play? Do you, what's the format, and are the women nice, and what do you guys do? So it started very simply. I blogged about, we have crazy sock night this week, or this week we dressed red, white, and blue. So trying to show not only the golf, because that's amazing,
Hmm.
but also the community that you can build when you join a women's golf league, and showcasing that. And then it turned into more of, really, my blog is focused on answering those common questions, like what type of equipment do I need? How should I choose a golf instructor? What are some important etiquette points that I need to know? Just things that I've heard at events and follow.
Yeah. More than 2 decades ago, the golf governing body, they restructured and they launched this kind of mission, golf for all, golf for everyone. Why do you think golf is still perceived as an exclusive male dominated sport?
Great question. I think it's perceived as a male dominated sport because, despite efforts, it still is a male dominated
Hmm.
sport. The National Golf Foundation reports that 26% of on course golfers are women. So it's a 3-to-1 ratio out on the course. And when we were talking about the handicap system earlier, when you look at the scores reported through the handicap
Hmm.
system, it's less than 18% of scores that are reported by women. And so I think that, it's perceived that way because it still is, despite the efforts. And I think it's great when the governing bodies form and have these missions, and they do make inroads. I'm sure I didn't look at historical data, but I'm sure that the 18% and then 26% is increased from where it was 20 years ago, but we still have more to do. We still have further to go. And I love when the LPGA or the PGA, when they do their tournament weeks, they often have community activations during that week where you'll see Les Birdies or LPGA amateurs or groups like mine. There's the Legs Golf in Orlando in
Hmm.
Florida. And they do partner, like those bigger, names in the golf, LPGA and the PGA. They're partnering with the smaller organizations to try to bring that equality and inclusion in during tour weeks, which I think is wonderful. And at the same time, they're still one-off events as the tours travel. So really, in order to create that equality and inclusion, you still need the ground level efforts, where people in their own communities start and do their own initiatives, because where people live, if there's an opportunity at a golf course nearby for me to join a
Mm.
league and I know about it and I hear about it, I know about it, I feel welcomed and encouraged, then that is not just one time I play golf. That's something I can do every week or maybe every other week or once a month or whatever the frequency is or the format of the leagues. And we do need more women's leagues at our public golf courses. So I think that despite, the large corporate
Mm.
efforts, there is still a need for people in their own communities. And I think that makes sometimes the most difference because people can form relationships and bonds through
Hmm.
that and have, a community of golf that lasts, not just for a single event, but goes on for years.
Yeah. Mary, what are the biggest obstacles preventing more women and girls from taking up golf?
Well, I think that the biggest obstacles are one,
Is it cost? Is
knowledge.
it, I don't know, it's not accessible? Is it too difficult? Is it maybe you need more time to blend within the sport itself?
Absolutely. I think that, as you said before, it's perceived as a male
Mm.
sport. So for women and girls, it's not the natural sport that
Hmm.
they're immediately gravitating to, like softball or volleyball or other sports like that. So it just doesn't get as much press on the women's
Yeah.
side. And I think the information and visibility is probably the biggest barrier because it's a mental block. It might even be available. The programs, the clinics, the golf teams are available to
Mm.
join, but there is still the stigma of, well, that's a boys sport. It's not for girls, not for women. So I think the stigma, but then yes, cost, especially for adult women. One of the biggest questions I see is, um, I don't want to spend 500 or
Mm.
$1,000 on golf clubs. I might not even like the sport. Why should I do that? And so figuring out how to build a bag that's minimal, that
Mm.
is just what they need, but also equipment that fits them.
Plus the outfits as well, which is another
Plus the outfit.
which is
Well, the
another
outfits.
topic.
Usually the women don't have too many problems with the
Yeah.
outfits. They I think I think that's the one thing that women love is the fashion,
Mm.
or at least a lot of my peers love is the golf fashion and get really into that and are wanting to buy, all the outfits. And I always tell them, yes, do it. Buy the
Mm.
outfit because half of actually being a golfer is feeling like you are a golfer. And
Mm.
so if you dress the part, then yeah.
Yeah, I've seen last year, I think in November, October or November, I saw Caitlin Clark
Yes, she
on,
participated
and I
in
was
a
so
PTA.
happy to see that. She was
Yeah.
invited to, I think, a PGA event,
Yes.
and I saw a couple of videos, and I said, "What? What is that?" You know, the technique, the swing. I was like, "Wow!" And it created such a buzz afterwards, where even here in Europe, most of the sports publications online and print only talking about Caitlin Clark, not basketball player, but golfer,
As a
you know.
golfer.
But then she was talking about her experience, and she praised her dad that because of him, he gave her the virus, the golf virus, you know.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
every time she had an opportunity, she went to the golf course and played. I guess this kind of opportunity it pushed the little girls to be inspired and to join a club or yeah. But it's yeah, it was amazing to see that.
I agree. Caitlin Clark is amazing.
Mm.
What she's done for women's basketball is incredible, and still goes on. She still has amazing
Mm.
impact. And so, if a little sprinkle of that comes over to the golf course, that is amazing. And she's a lot of fun. And she said, I'll take up golf for the winter.
Hmm. Yeah.
It was really
Yeah.
magical. And then you have golfers like, Nelly Korda,
Hmm.
who's also a huge inspiration to many people. Annika, and so many big
Hmm.
names. But it's nice when the basketball player who's so popular, crosses over into the other sport. And she's so talented. She can do
Yeah.
anything. Yeah, her swing is
It
beautiful.
is, it is. But then what struck me is what she said that because of her father, because of her dad, you know. And I said, wow, I wish all the dads they will push their girls to go and give it a try on a golf course, you know. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that the parents, when, and I often have women that come to my events that say, I've really only ever played with my dad,
Mm.
which is beautiful and wonderful that their father got them into the sport. And I think part of my mission is that I want adult women to be the golfer in the
Absolutely.
family and natural or golf as well
Hmm.
as the dad. And I believe that enabling the adult women to golf and get into golf will also
Hmm.
have, a huge influence over little girls and
And
the legacy.
on that, can you share a personal story of a woman in your community overcoming these challenges?
Well, I would say that I can't think really of a necessarily, well, okay, yeah, I do. I do have
Hmm.
an example of one woman who um she's amazing. She's been to several of my events. She's a total beginner,
Hmm.
and she found golf as an adult, and she is just starting out. So she came to a driving range event, she came to a clinic, and she learned a lot. And then eventually as she came to a few events, and I noticed that her progress was huge. She was really, her swing was looking great. She was so much more confident, and she just looked so much more natural than she had when she first started attending. And I said, what are you doing differently? What's going on? And this is a woman who she's got two little kids, a full-time job. There's many reasons why she wouldn't be
Yeah.
able to or available to play golf. And she said to me, Mary, you inspired me. I would love to join a ladies league, but right now I just don't feel ready to join a league yet. I'm not good enough. I don't feel like I'm good enough. But she said, I made my own league night. So it's my own personal tee time every Wednesday at 5:30. I'm going to the golf course no matter what. I invite friends to come with me. If they want to come, they come. If they don't want to come, I go by myself. But Wednesday night is my golf night, and that is what I've been doing to improve. So I think that didn't necessarily overcome like a tough
Hmm.
challenge or anything, but just the challenge of trying to find time for yourself and being able to invest in yourself. So she just said Wednesday night is my golf night, and I'm going to play golf whether anybody wants to play with me or not. And that did so much wonders for her confidence, her skill, her ability, and it really paid off. You could definitely see it.
Nice. Thanks for sharing. How do you design your events to be welcoming and beginner friendly?
Great question. Yeah, because my events, I have beginners, but I also have intermediate
Hmm.
golfers who are pretty good players. So first of all, the first thing I do is information ahead of
Hmm.
time. I find that women often have a lot of questions before they come to an event. So I put it all out there. I say in the event information and in an email confirmation, I talk about things like how you should dress, what's the format, what to expect. So giving the information up front
Hmm.
helps people know what they're signing up for. And when they arrive, I always give kind of an introduction speech, and I give a couple of principles or values that we are going to hold through for my event. So the first one is no question is a silly question. I just put that out there because I often find that if one person has a question, it's probably on the mind of someone
Mm.
else too. So no question is a silly question.
Nice.
Just ask it,
Nice.
feel comfortable. And then the second thing is we're here to help and support each other. So some of my events, you might have one or two golf pros to 20 women, and that can when the pro is spending time with someone else, another person might have a question. So I always say, just ask the question. And if you know the answer and you're confident about the answer, give the answer. You don't have to wait for the pro to say it, or you can say, I'm not 100% sure, but here's what I think. And then you're helping someone else. And the principle really is we help each other, we support each
Hmm.
other, and we're not here to, police or govern or correct. We're here just to continuously improve and make sure that everybody feels comfortable and supported.
Yeah. In light of what we said earlier, in your opinion, Mary, how can golf clubs and governing bodies do a better job of promoting inclusivity?
I think that golf clubs and governing bodies can do a better job by ensuring that there are more beginner leagues, beginner clinics, and beginner leagues and beginner
Mhm.
clinics available for people to join, and also promotion of those events. I think that one pattern I've seen is that, because August and September, there's always a lot going on in the professional golf world. And I often get a lot of questions and inquiries about my events during those months. But actually, the season is sort of winding down in the Northeast at that point of time. So, really getting ahead of that on the front end in something like February, March, and April to make sure that people are hearing the buzz
Mhm.
about golf and all of the events, because our public golf courses, so again, this is a National Golf Foundation. So in the US, it's 75% of golf courses are open to the public. We have great golf here. And I think if each course made sure that they had a good beginner program, or even a women's specific program, that would help so much. And many of them do, but they just don't get promoted or the visibility that they need. So, one of the things I do with my social media is I make sure to share and promote opportunities. Like we have in Cincinnati, we have the Great Parks golf courses, Great Parks of Hamilton County in Cincinnati. And we have wonderful PGA pros that are staffed at those golf courses. We have beautiful facilities.
Mhm.
And I just think that people don't know about it. So that's what I'm here to do is help share.
And joining your group, you told me you try to answer or give a heads up to each of the ladies as much information as possible. When it comes to equipment, for example, the club,
Yeah, the golf
yeah,
clubs. Mhm.
usually do they get the golf clubs secondhand or new ones, or how does it work?
Uh, yeah, that's a great question too. So for my events, the women can select, are you bringing your own golf clubs or do you need to borrow a set?
Mhm.
I actually acquired 4 or 5 different sets of golf clubs. I even have left-handed,
Mhm.
so I make sure to be inclusive there. So I think that if they're total beginner, they don't have clubs, they can always borrow a set from me. And many golf courses you can
Yeah,
either borrow or rent
that's
as
great.
well. Yeah. The I think the one problem with that is with trying to put together a set for a beginner or a first timer. I mean, we talked about the number of golfers on the course and the outnumber of 3 to 1, and golf equipment is the same. So when you go to a yard sale, or you're trying to look at the most economical way to put a bag together, a lot of the equipment is men's equipment. And um, if someone, is not as athletic or as strong, that equipment might be a bit too much
Yeah.
for them and make it actually harder. So I do often encourage to go to the store and try the different golf clubs. A lot of our stores here in Cincinnati, they have secondhand or used equipment that you can buy, which helps make it more affordable. And the other thing is, you really only need 4 clubs if you boil it, right down. I have one of my blog posts is how to buy golf clubs on a shoestring budget. So I give some
Which is
ideas
important.
for
It's yeah.
it is. It's important. I give some ideas for where you can source clubs at an affordable price, but also I say you really only need 4 clubs when you're just starting out. You need a wood, you need an iron, you need a wedge, and a
Mm.
putter, and that's it. So you don't have to go buy a full set of 14 clubs when you're just beginning.
Yeah, yeah, great.
Mhm.
How has golf helped you grow as a person and a leader?
So I've worked in corporate and management and manufacturing for most of my professional career, and I learned a ton during that time. And I still I still work
Hmm.
in corporate America, and I've had some wonderful leaders in those jobs, and so I've shaped and adapted my style, and I think that the growth that I have had over the last 2 to 3 years is that just recognizing the power of my voice and the power of my vision and sharing that vision with others and the influence that it has over others. And I am honestly astounded. Every time I put together a league or an event, I'm always very grateful and also just very humbled at the fact that people want to
Hmm.
join and kind of believe in my mission and the wonderful things that they say at the events. And so and it's not for everybody because it is beginner, right? So sometimes the intermediate golfers might be a little too advanced for what we're doing or skip out on one or two events. But in general, the community that I've been able to build by sharing my vision and sharing my values with others has helped me grow a lot because I realized how important it is to stay positive, to keep moving. I realize how important it is that I don't have to do anything grand or big. It's just small, small steps. And it makes a big difference.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm. How was the satisfaction rate when it comes to, I mean, you've been doing this for how many years now? Four?
yeah, this will be the fourth
Fourth
season
season.
coming up.
Yeah.
Mhm.
How pleased are your members?
I think they're very pleased. They want more.
Hmm.
So I'm
Normal.
I'm trying to figure out how to give them more. In the wintertime, it's tough to play golf,
Mm.
obviously outdoors, but we have some great indoor golf
Hmm.
facilities. There's one in particular that I work with very closely. They're called Swing Fit Golf Club, and they have great facilities there, and they're very welcoming. So we host an indoor golf league on Wednesday nights this winter, and we did one in the fall. So I think they're very pleased about that, and they help each other. Like some of them come into the league nights and they've never played on the simulator, and that's a learning curve as well because you have to interact with the screen, you have to kind of tell it what you want to do, and you're hitting on the mats and on
Hmm.
the turf, and it's a learning curve. It's different than being on the course. It's different than being on the driving range. So, yeah.
Yeah. Do you think using a simulator is more fun and more social than being outdoor?
I think in the winter,
Yeah.
yes, it's more fun and more social. But I would if I have a choice and the weather's nice, I'm always going to be outdoors. And I think it enables you to be the thing that works great in our league is that we all start at the same time. We start at 7 p.m. and we're all in the same area of the facility.
Hmm.
So for 2 hours, we can kind of mix and mingle. If it's not your turn, you can kind of mingle over with another group and say hi and catch up. And I think that works really well. So in a way, yes, it does help build community because you have that opportunity to interact with more people during that 2 hour or 2.5 hour. It's usually shorter when we're doing indoors because you don't have to get out of the cart and all that stuff. So, uh, but I think that on the normal season, when I play 9 holes in my ladies
Hmm.
league, I love and I always make time to stay after so that I grab half of a turkey wrap and maybe I have a beer or a seltzer,
Hmm.
and I like to sit and spend time with not only my golf partner but the other ladies that have just finished. And it's always a fun time. It's great to hear all of the updates from
Hmm.
everybody each week. So,
Yeah. Yeah. How do you see golf empowering women beyond the sport itself?
well, I think that golf absolutely empowers women beyond the sport itself, just in the nature of the connections that you
Hmm.
make when you become a golfer, when you become a player. So a colleague of mine that is really into the nonprofit sector, she does a lot of her personal time she spends in the housing, you know, trying to build or promote or get involved with housing initiatives for in the nonprofit area. And she actually told me that, she was the same one who had her mind changed about golf, and that I spoke about earlier. But she goes to conferences and she goes to other events to help promote and build her business out in the nonprofit sector. And she said that by happenstance, she happened to talk about that she was learning golf and beginning to learn golf. And somebody who was in the workshop with her said, "Oh, let's go for a round together." Um, and so they did that. And then in the process, this is now someone who's become very important to her business and her initiatives and is a mentor to her in the nonprofit and housing sector. So she actually told me, if it wasn't for you, if I didn't learn how to play golf, like I would have never met this guy, because I wouldn't have mentioned, that I played golf, and we wouldn't have had that in common. So I think that it opens up doors because of the relationships that you can build outside of, your initial community that you start playing golf in.
Fantastic. That's, yeah, like we say all the time, sport has a power to connect people.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. And for our listeners, let's break down the following just
Sure.
to give them practical tips for beginners, how to start and stuff like that. What's your advice, Marie, for someone who feels intimidated by golf?
Oh, that's a great question. So I think that all of us would love more confidence
Hmm.
in our day-to-day
Hmm.
lives, and especially on the golf course. If you don't feel confident, it's really hard. Your mindset really matters. So, how do we build confidence? How do we build it? I think that there's four things that go into it. One is preparation, and that is making sure that you know what you're going to need when you go to the driving range, when you go to the golf course, when you go to the simulator. So understanding what equipment you're going to need, what clothes you're going to need to wear, like feeling like you're prepared. And in order to be prepared, you need information. And I think that's where I'm realizing that there's a lack of information, a lack of voices that are speaking to women that are interested in golf, speaking to them directly, answering the questions that they have before they go into these events. So you need to be prepared. To be prepared, you have to have the information. You also need to understand what you can expect. Like, your expectations need to uh, be the same or similar to what you're actually experiencing,
Hmm.
right? So that's another thing, is a lot about mindset and about progress is not necessarily linear. Just because you went to the driving range 4 weeks in a row doesn't mean you're going to be able to perform out on the course. The course is a totally different environment. So I think preparation, information, expectation, understanding that progress isn't linear. It's
Hmm.
you're going to go up and down throughout the seasons. And then when you're playing, being present. And again, that comes back to mindset. As much as you can be where your feet are, is going to help you so much to help your body do what it needs to do. The golf swing is complicated. It's not natural to a lot of people. So being able to be present on the golf course allows your body to do what it knows how to do. If you've been taking lessons, if you've been practicing that routine, just rely on that muscle memory.
Hmm. And the best way for someone to start without spending too much money.
I think the best way to start is, like I said, the four clubs.
Hmm.
You really just need the wood, the iron, the wedge, and a putter. And I also always recommend your local public parks and recreation department. A lot of parks and recreation departments have golf courses. That's going to be the most economical, the most affordable tee time, driving range, getting a bucket of balls, and also for lessons. A lot of the pros that teach at these public golf facilities are very skilled and also very affordable. Um, Another recommendation I would have is to, if you have a friend who's also interested, then you can do like, so many will allow it. I haven't heard of them that don't allow it, but I'm sure some people might not want to do this. But I think if you can do a lesson with a friend, like the two of you together with a pro, I like that approach because it gives you 30 minutes and your friend 30 minutes, and the pro can kind of go back and forth and coach. And I've had I've done a bunch of lessons with different pros that are open to that, so I don't think it would be a problem. But I always recommend that too, because you need a golf lesson. Many women do, because they are frustrated or can't get the ball forward and airborne. That's the idea. And when you're frustrated like that, I always recommend taking a lesson from a PGA pro. And then, and if you can't spend that much money, maybe you can split it with a friend.
Yeah. Quite often, or let's say for the majority of the women, because they have so much on their plate, a career, a household, kids to look after, how much time do you think, if someone, let's say a woman, she get hooked, she love the sport, and she wants to carry on from beginner or transition from beginner to intermediate, how much time do you need per week, for example?
Well, if you look at my story, I only spent 2.5 hours a week. I did it every week during golf season. And I think that if you make a commitment to go to the driving range for an hour a week, or go to the golf course for 2 hours a week, that you're going to see results.
It's not a
Your
lot.
efforts, it's not a lot, but it layers on, it builds. So I think that a lot of people say, well, if I'm not going to be really good at it, then I don't want to play at all. And to that, I say, I don't know how you get through life with that mindset. I mean, if you're
I agree
interested
with
in
you.
it, yeah, I mean, there's so many things that I wouldn't have done if the first time I did it, I said, oh, that's not for me. An example is 20 years ago, how I felt when I first went on the golf course. So maybe that's where you're at right now. I mean, I want to meet people where they're at. So obviously, if it's not for you, it's really not for you. But I think if it is something you're interested in, and maybe you have another reason, like a lot of times I do see women, they have a personal reason, like they're looking for something in their life that's just for them, that they can grow, that they can develop into a new skill they can learn, a new community they can be part of. So I do find that, but I also hear from women who, they're getting ready for retirement, their husband or partner golfs, and they want to be able to, be somewhat proficient at that, so that they can spend some time, some of the time that he spends on the golf course can be with her too. Or maybe they have a friend that is really into it and they want to get into it. So find your reason. I think that's the most important part. Find your why, for why you want to go into golf. Have a vision for yourself. Do you want to take an amazing golf trip? Do you want to play an awesome course? Or is it really just, hey, your friends or your family or your husband plays and you want to be able to feel like you're part of that community? Find your why and then make a commitment. And even if it's a small amount of time every week, those small gains do add up over time. And actually, it's a lot better. In many cases, it's a lot better to do something a little bit every week consistently for a longer period of time than it is to drop everything and do something extreme. I think burnout, frustration comes from that. So,
yeah. And is it common for someone that get hooked to the sport, love the sport, is it common when it comes to choosing, for example, a holiday destination, that trying to find, is there a golf course nearby the resort, or trying to spend more time?
Exactly. That's the one thing that I've loved about now being a golfer, is that for the last 4 years, almost every vacation I've taken, I Google, what are the golf courses nearby. I went for 2 years. My family goes to the beach, my mom and my sister and the kids. My mom has 11 grandchildren now. So,
Wow.
yeah, so it's a big party.
Yeah,
It's a lot of
fantastic.
fun, and we love to vacation in
Mm.
like the North Carolina on the East Coast,
Mhm.
and so there was a golf course near the beach, and this is a beach house we've gone to for years, and it never occurred to me before, look for a golf course. So I did, and my sister came out with me. We took a lesson together, and
Mhm.
then we played a few holes, and we had a really nice afternoon. So, and it was our time away from all the chaos of the kids and,
Yeah, it's a nice break.
the beach. It was a nice break. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's definitely a thing, and I encourage people to do it. And I took a vacation in Nashville, and I also did the same thing. We played a course, and that's really on my mind. Any
Mhm.
vacation that I have coming up, that's is there an opportunity to play golf?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think you should add a disclaimer or a sentence within the disclaimer for your new members. Warning, if you get the golf virus, there is no antidote.
I love that. I'm gonna do that.
As
Put it
a,
in
as
the
a
terms and conditions.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we spoke about the mindset. We spoke about the equipment, how much, let's say, to start on a budget. Now, what are the most essential skills to focus on for beginners?
Well, I think there's three things. There's grip,
Hmm.
stance, and posture. And I'm not a professional, not a PGA professional at all, but that is something I know for sure that many beginners they need to get comfortable how they're holding the club, the connection to the club, the grip is very important. Their stance. Some people are not used to that athletic stance. And then the posture. So how far bent over should you be, and how do you really make sure that you're pushing off the ground and rotating your hips through?
Hmm.
So those are the as a beginner to get the golf swing down. Actually, yes, you definitely need to focus on the swing, but putting is really where the advantage on scoring happens. And anybody can be a good putter, anybody. So putting is another area where I encourage my beginners to focus and practice on the putting green. It's much less intimidating than hitting the ball or having somebody watch you on the tee and having to do that full swing. And it's it's a talent to be able to read the greens and make sure that you know where the ball is going to go and that you hit it with the right speed. And I always encourage my beginners to take a putting lesson as well.
Hmm.
And in fact, one of the things that I do every year is very popular is the short game clinic. So I partner with the local golf pros, and there's one that puts on a phenomenal short game clinic where they teach you exactly how to read the greens, and they have all kinds of training aids to help people really understand how to
Hmm.
do that. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
And do they do some kind of warm up before stretching in between?
Yes,
Hmm.
I always encourage. I always say on my event description. I think that's somewhat of a common misconception is that you know while it's true that anyone can play golf, it's also true that golf is a physically
It is.
demanding
It
sport
is. Yeah.
when you get
Yeah.
into it and the rotation that you have to make your body do. So I often that's another thing that I do in the beginning is say, hey, if you feel physically exerted or you feel like, this is not right for your body, like slow down, stretch, take a break. Um, don't kill yourself,
Mm.
basically, like make sure you take control of your body and listen to your body. Um, yeah.
How do you foster an inclusive and supportive environment?
I think that, making sure that there's opportunities to learn. I think a lot of women also are afraid. They say, like, well, I don't want to put any money on the game, or I don't want to, like, if there's a prize, I'm not interested. I'm not trying to compete. So the competitive opportunities are a bit fewer and further between with my group because we're more on the beginner side. And that takes the intimidation out of it because
Hmm.
nobody feels like they're losing out if they're not winning. And making sure to tell them, ask your questions. Even if you have a silly question or you feel like it might be a silly question, it's not a silly question. We'll answer it, we'll address it. And someone else will benefit from hearing that because there's probably someone else who's thought of the question, but is afraid to ask it. And just making sure that, hey, we support each other. I also provide a lot of different formats. So one of the very popular events is just a driving range meetup. There's no instruction. There's no, game that we do necessarily. I do a raffle. I do some prizes for people that show up and that participate, but it's just as simple as that. I mean, if you go to any driving range, you're going to see a ton of guys and not very many women,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, common.
And so it's not often that you see women taking over the driving range, but that's what we do when I have an event. There's 10, 20 women that are coming to the driving range, and then, there is that sense of community there. And so there's a lot of heads that turn like, whoa, we don't often see this many women at the driving range, but it feels good to be there and to create that community.
It's nice. Yeah. Mary, where do you see Queen City Links ladies in 5 years from now?
In 5 years, I hope to still be doing events, and I hope that the information side, I'm going to continue working on my blog and really honing that in and making sure that I understand in the minds of the adult beginner women golfers. I want to really make sure that I'm in touch with what they know, what they want to know, what questions they have, and what they want to learn, and that whole journey that I went on and I want so many more women to experience and to go on. So I hope that I can be even more valuable and even more of service in 5 years, perhaps with a podcast.
Why not?
That would be great, right? And I hope to really have some different offerings for instruction for where the women are in their journey. I think that I can provide a lot of value. I also would love to cultivate women golf league coordinators. So other people like myself who are excited or interested in organizing. As I said before, I think that it's very important that on the ground in all of our communities that there are opportunities for women to join and play at the golf course or go to the driving range or go to a clinic and not feel like they're a sore thumb or they're the odd one out. I want representation in all those places. And I think one of the keys to do that is to really provide great resources for golf league coordinators. Because if you think about the golf courses themselves, the management and the operations is mostly male. And that they may have a ladies league. They may run the ladies league. So whereas if you look at the men's leagues, there's often one coordinator and that knowledge gets passed down, whether it's a company league or a senior league. At some courses, the number of men's leagues outnumber women's leagues by 8-1. So there's just a lack of opportunity there. And I think that is the key to providing a forum where women can play consistently and the knowledge can be transferred in that less formal way. And the relationships get built over time and the knowledge gets passed down and like new members get welcomed while, the members that have been there for a while kind of know the drill, know the golf course in and out, and they can really help each other. So in 5 years, I hope to be even more of value to women that are learning golf.
And in your opinion, what one thing or maybe many things can be done to push girls within the sports of golf?
Well, junior golf is actually really growing fast. And I think that in terms of girls versus boys, I know that there's not as many girls, joining as boys. But I think that the visibility is very important, very important. If you can see it, you can be it. And when you're so young and thinking about what you want to do, what you want to be when you grow up, or you're really looking at the models that you have. So information, visibility, and the media is a big part of that, is going to influence. So it is things like Caitlin Clark,
Hmm.
taking a stroll over to
Hmm.
the golf world because so many young women and girls love Caitlin Clark. So more of that would be amazing and really take a step change
Hmm.
in that area.
Do you see one day a school, maybe they have a golf course nearby, includes golf within the school curriculum?
Oh, that'd be amazing. Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm. Because that's an
Yeah.
idea. That's one of the, just to get little ones, just to give it a try. Because if it's part of a curriculum, either you will love it or you will hate it, you know?
Absolutely.
But yeah, again, we go back to if you get a virus, there is no antidote.
There's no
And
antidote.
absolutely, and if the little ones they get hooked, then the parents they have no other choice just to follow their kids.
That's true. To support them.
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah, especially for the
That's a great
girls,
point.
especially for the girls, because maybe I don't know, maybe girls they find beside of what all we discussed earlier, maybe it's not a cool sport for girls. I don't know. Maybe there is because you proven within your group within you created a community and this is what girls they want a community, they want groups, they want to be together, enjoy, have fun, play, I think.
Yeah.
And I don't think the clubs they are catered, they have this kind of environment, they don't, they have instructors, they give lessons, and that's it. You come in, you change, get your golf clubs, go on the golf course, play, do a couple of holes and leave.
Yeah. Certainly some, and I've worked with several different facilities just in this area where I am in Cincinnati,
Mm.
in Ohio. And so the different pros that I've worked with, some are more interested than others in building community around their facilities. And I love working with the ones that do want to build that. And that has been amazing. And I know that, for the rest, like maybe they'll come in a few years. I
Mhm.
have to give them time. But absolutely, I think that normally the pro's normal role is, managing the tee sheet, doing instructions, doing lessons. And so, they maybe are or aren't incentivized to come up with programs and have programs offered for beginners or for women. And so anytime that there's energy like that, I'm gravitating to that in this area, of course. But I think that more courses and more golf facilities need that energy because it makes such a big difference when
Mm.
you can build that
Yeah.
community in your
Do you,
area.
Mary, do you believe that golf as a sport suffer from this perception that it's an elitist sport, that it's not for
I
all?
do. I do.
Mm. Maybe
I
this
do
is
see
one of
that.
the
Barriers.
It is. And I think that the elitist part comes from the amount of investment that, the barrier to entry of investing in golf clubs, investing in the equipment that you need. And so it does suffer. And I think that that's part of my work is to change that narrative
Mm.
by doing my small part to make it more inclusive and more accessible and available. And I'm not the only one, but it's more of that is needed to strip that paradigm.
Yeah, yeah. Great. Mary, we're wrapping up with a quick lightning round. Short answers
Okay.
and no overthinking.
Okay.
Ready?
Ready.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee in the morning, tea in the afternoon, decaf tea.
Classic. Favorite golf course you've ever played on?
My favorite course is my home course,
Hmm.
which is called Hickory Woods Golf Course here in Loveland. But probably the best, like the most exciting golf that I've ever played is Pine Needles in Pinehurst. That is a championship level course, and that was an incredible opportunity. I still remember those rounds and think about that.
Okay. And your home golf course, how old is it?
Oh, I don't know, but I would say at least 30, maybe 50 years old.
Yeah.
I'll have to check on that.
A book that changed your perspective on life.
Atomic Habits by James
Mm.
Clear. This is, I think that, that was an inspiring story of his disability and the injury and disability that he had, and how small things can make huge difference over time.
Mhm. A song or artist that gets you pumped up.
Right now, I'm loving Chappell Rowan.
Mhm.
All of her songs, Pink Pony Club and Feminine Nomenon, they really get me going.
If you could have a dinner with one historical figure, who would it be and why?
Eleanor Roosevelt. I love, her work and some of the quotes that she has that I keep in my mind all the time. So
Mhm. Favorite way to relax after a long day or a long week?
when I'm having a long day or a long week and I'm stressed, I go for a run. So if I can go for a 2 to 3 mile run, that just helps me shed a lot of that stress, and I feel so much better afterwards. Then I take a shower, and then I'll curl up on the couch in my sweats, and I always forget to stretch, but yeah, then I should stretch.
Nice. Best advice you've ever received?
The best advice is there's a quote from Robin Sharma's 5 a.m. book. It's like small, seemingly, insignificant improvements when done over time can lead to astounding results.
Mm.
So I've heard that other places in my corporate world too. It's like, just get started. Done is better than perfect, right? Just do something. And I always think of that when I get overwhelmed or feeling like what I'm doing is not enough. It's like, no, that's not it. Just what is the next right step? What's the next small step that you can take? And then when you look over time, it's going to be amazing.
Mhm. Worst career advice you ever gotten?
Okay. Yeah, the worst career advice that actually, when I started working in supply chain, in the first 6 months, I was told I wasn't a fit, that I would never work out at that company. And, my manager at the time was very upset because it was a very, very small thing that happened. I had a personal appointment during a time that he expected me to be at work, but I
Mhm.
had worked it ahead of time. And anyway, it got him very upset. So he uh he said to me, you're not a fit, you'll never make it here. And so 20 years later, I'm still with the company. I'm a leader in the company, and I still love the company. But I think the problem there, what he said, you need to deposit into the bank account before you take a withdrawal, was his point to me as
Mhm.
a young, and I was a young professional,
Mhm.
and I definitely understand that point. However, uh, with all of the circumstances, I think that one of the things that's really important is trust,
Mhm.
trust and inspire. Um, our leaders need to have that trust and inspire mentality, not this command and control, right? So I think that, yeah, at the beginning of my career, that was pretty daunting. And I had already worked for more than a year with the company, but this was a new leader that I was exposed to that didn't trust me, right? And so it was immediately like attack, attack, attack. And I think that was the worst. That was the worst advice, was this command and control mentality. And so I think that leading with trust is really important in many environment, in any environment, but especially that.
Mhm. Skill or hobby you'd love to learn?
Gardening. Yeah. I have a big family. I have 4 kids, and
So you
I
don't
I
have
think it
time
would
to
be really
garden.
fun. Well, we'll see. I hopefully I get to do that eventually. I think it would be kind of fun to go in the
Yeah.
backyard. And when I was growing up, my mom always kept a garden in our backyard, and I don't know how she did it, thinking back, because she had her own business.
Mhm.
She worked full time and had us. But yeah, I hope to be able to grow some lettuce, some tomatoes,
Yeah.
and make a salad from some of the things in my
Mhm.
backyard one day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most inspiring sports moment you've witnessed?
Well, I mean, I think last year, it was very inspiring last year to watch Nelly Korda win uh, five championships in a row. So, and then I know she had a period of time. So I think watching Nelly is amazing. Every competition that she plays in, I love to pay attention to that. And I would have to go with that. Yeah.
Okay. Morning person or a night owl?
I'm a morning person all the way.
Favorite non-golf sports to watch?
Probably basketball. I like to watch basketball. And then my daughter plays volleyball. So I'm watching a lot of volleyball
That's
too.
a tough sport.
It is tough.
Yeah, it is tough. It is tough. And basketball, both men's and women?
Yes.
It's amazing. The past couple of years, the WNBA, it went from, and even the last Summer Olympic Games in Paris, the last match between France and the US. Wow, it was no way to predict who's going to win.
Yeah, that has been amazing to watch the last couple of years, and I love so much more visibility around women's sports. So that's been great.
Yeah. What's a movie or a TV show you've watched more than 5 times?
Oh, probably The Holiday with Kate Winslet and Cameron Diaz. I love that movie. I watch it every winter. Yeah.
Nice. What's a hobby or interest you have that might surprise people?
Well, I'm a runner. I've done 3 marathons and countless half marathons. So that's really where I get a lot of my aerobic exercise from is running. Yeah.
And lastly, to our listeners, a piece of advice or wisdom on any topic.
My piece of advice is that if you're thinking of something, if you're wanting something more for yourself, that just get started, even if it is in a small way. I think so many times we have dreams or visions, and sometimes I hear people getting very disheartened by how far they feel from being able to achieve a goal that is big and maybe like a crazy or a wild goal. And what I would say to them is just get started. Find it in your heart. What is it that you want? What is your vision? And take a small step today. And then tomorrow, figure out what the next right step is. I think understanding your values and what you want very clearly is so powerful to get you where you want to go.
Mary Boecker, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Sid. I loved being able to share my story with you and talk to you about my work. And I love the work that you're doing. I've listened to a few of the episodes recently, the mental skills, mindset skills, and the one with AI was so interesting as well. So I think you're doing amazing things. And thank you so much for giving me a platform to talk about my work. And yeah.
You're welcome. And by the way, your work is really niche. And I strongly advise you one day start a podcast.
Thank you. I hope to.
And Mary, definitely. Before we conclude, can you tell our listeners where they can contact you, learn more about your work, or just connect online?
Yes, absolutely. It's www.queencitylynxladies.com. And if you want a beginner checklist, maybe you're thinking about starting to play golf, it's queencitylynxladies.com/beginner checklist. And then you'll be able to get a nice 2-page guide that I've made for beginners that has some basic golf terminology, what's the objective of the sport. It even has the pieces of the golf course and what do you do in each area and what clubs you need, and gives you a little bit of information. And it also gives you a few steps to take after you digest that information.
And to our listeners, I want to leave you with a powerful thought from Susan Brownell Anthony, widely regarded as a pioneer for the women's suffrage movement and a relentless advocate for equality. She once said, "Organize, agitate, educate must be our war cry." And that's exactly what Mary is doing, organizing a community of women in golf, challenging the status quo and educating women to feel confident and empowered on the course. Her work is a testament to the idea that inclusion in sports is not just about access, but about fostering a sense of belonging and growth.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to the Pre-Zero Sports Talk podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. Until next time, stay curious, stay inspired, and keep making a difference. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.